Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I am excited to share my conversation today with Kathryn Evans. Kathryn has been somebody that I've had the privilege of knowing for several years now. We'll get into a bit of that, how she came to Hera Hub. She is focused on helping companies and individuals create strategies for success. She is a speaker. She's also an author. She does a lot of online writing, and we'll talk about what that looks like as it relates to LinkedIn and other communication platforms. And she has been encouraging and mentoring other women into success for many years. So she focuses on using what's referred to as social selling, social media platforms to generate qualified leads. And this is an area that I think everybody's interested in, but there's still a lot of myths around it. So she really focuses on how to not only engage, but also nurture relationships, creating obviously some cohesion between what's happening in your team on both the marketing side, but then also the sales side as well. And she has 30 years of experience doing just that. Sales, marketing. She is a serial entrepreneur, and she works with high-level executives, but also rookie sales teams as well to improve their selling skills. So, as she likes to say, if you want to crush your goals and turn your selling slumps into celebrated fist bumps, I love that visual, you can find her at kathrynevans.net, and she spells her name with a Y, Kathryn with a K, Athryn. Welcome to the show today, Kathryn.
Thank you so much, Felina, for having me today. I really appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Excited to share your story, and you have quite a story. So let's get into it. Where are you from, and take us along your career path?
Absolutely. So where am I from? It's hard to explain, but I was born in California. I've lived all over the U.S., including a short stint in Europe. So, but I'm happy to be here in San Diego, which feels like home to me and where I'll probably spend the rest of my life. So,
yes, me too. It is a lovely place. So take us.
We're paradise.
Yes, we are. We are very lucky. Well, I know you do a lot of traveling, and San Diego, as do I, and San Diego is definitely home for both of us. So take us into the early years of your career. It looks like you did your degree there in Arizona in biology, and then have had a career path in that field ever since. Take us into the early days of your career path and take us along your journey.
Sure, and I'll try to keep it short because we could get lost in the minutia.
No,
but
you're fine.
So I like to say I'm one of those unique people that found my passion early on and stuck with it. Mm-hmm. So my mom worked in a hospital setting, and when I was really young, she took me into a medical laboratory and some of the different areas of the hospital and introduced me to people, just trying to get my awareness of the different areas of healthcare. And I really gravitated to laboratory medicine. And so when I graduated from high school, I went straight into biology, and I sought and found mentors in my early days in a community college, and they pointed me to laboratory medicine, which is ultimately where I landed. While I was going to school, I worked in a medical laboratory, and I had various positions in that laboratory. But I would see this one woman in particular, but I would see people come into the laboratory dressed to the nines, looking sharp, articulate, and I was like, what the heck do they do? What is their role visiting this lab? And it turned out that they were sales representatives for reference laboratories. Mm-hmm. So I decided that's what I wanted to do. And so I just sought that position out. I went through the ranks and ultimately ended up as a laboratory sales professional for a reference laboratory. So that's really what got me into the field where my expertise has been in sales management. I've done international business development in multiple countries, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Latin America, South Korea. I've had the privilege of traveling in all of those countries, opening new markets, managing people in different countries in different languages. It's really opened my eyes to the world as one market. And so that's really just my background for sales experience. And my marketing experience came from being at startup companies where there was no marketing. And so I had to establishing brand
If you're going to
awareness.
go sell something, you've got to have some marketing behind it. Absolutely.
Have some marketing. And so, I didn't actually do the graphic design myself at first, but we sought outside vendors and what is it going to look like and what's the messaging and what's the content. And so I've been director of marketing for a company for some time as well. So my experience came out of necessity, not with classic training. I really grew into that position. So that's been my background in the professional field in corporate America. And during all of those corporate positions, I've always dabbled in entrepreneurship. And so, from really young, I was making salsa and selling it at work. Or, oh my gosh, I've done so many stints. I've exported Indian jewelry to Europe because I'm from Arizona. I've exported fitness equipment. I had my own private line of vitamins. I was selling melatonin in various countries. I've just done a lot of different things. And I have a passion for keeping my mind busy and trying new things all the time.
Absolutely. I want to go. That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. I want to go back and as a lay person and a non-biologist and non-scientist, I just want to pause on this world of laboratories because I know I don't know a lot about it. I've had to do a little research from, and asking questions. So just in case somebody's not familiar with this whole world of labs, what do the labs you worked for specifically, because I know there's all kinds of different labs, but what were the basics of what the labs that you worked for did?
Absolutely. So laboratory does span a whole different areas. So there could be an environmental lab, a veterinary lab, and then human laboratories. So primarily with my adult career, it was in the clinical laboratory space where a patient would go to a physician or to a phlebotomy draw station. They would have their blood drawn. It would be sent to a laboratory. The laboratory would analyze whatever test the physician was ordering. A result would be generated back to the physician, and a bill would go out either to an insurance payer or to the patient themselves. So that's just a very general overview of laboratory medicine. And then there's different laboratories. There could be one in a physician office. There could be one in a hospital. There could be an academic institution that has a laboratory. And then there's a commercial laboratory and then a research lab. So the lab industry just spans all these different areas. Primarily, my experience has been in what we call esoteric laboratory testing, and that would be the lab testing that the physician or the hospital wouldn't perform in-house. It would be something that was much more prognostic, diagnostic, or some type of a monitoring test for some drug they might be taking. So definitely not something that is routine. It's more transferring research to a patient bedside with a new test that could monitor, diagnose, or prognose.
Got it. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I needed a little education on that front myself, so I appreciate the background. So let's dive in. You've had many entrepreneurial adventures. What what have been some of your, maybe one of your favorite and one of maybe the more challenging things that you've done? And then I want to start to get into this conversation around what is social selling and all the tools you use and how you help folks with connecting with their market in this way.
Absolutely. So I'd say within the past 10 years, let's just go back that far. When I was 40, I decided to have a baby. And so my first day back from maternity leave, I was downsized by corporate America. And when that happened, I said, I don't want to go back to corporate America. I'm tired of building brand awareness for them and generating millions of dollars for somebody that could expend me, my talent, and my family. So that really pushed me into an entrepreneurial state of mind. And I had been flipping homes in the real estate market just for my own benefit. And I had a passion for real estate. So I started doing some real estate concierge things, which was, what do real estate agents need? Oh, they need signs. They need somebody to run around and do errands for them. Well, goodness, maybe I should buy a sign company. And so I did that. And then the sign needs a signpost to be put in the yard. Well, gee, maybe I should start a signpost company. And so I did that. So for about a period of 2.5 to 3 years, I did have a retail location, a brick and mortar in Arizona. And we manufactured and printed and designed large format banners and real estate signs and little writers. And then I had a crew of people that would go out, dig holes, put signs in, hang the sign. We had a warehouse where we stored them. It was just a whole system that we had in place. And that was great, and it allowed me to take my baby to work with me. It was a fantastic opportunity. It was a lot of work because I was creating and selling and billing all at the same time as most, solopreneurs. You're everything in the company.
Yeah.
And when the real estate market crashed in Arizona, I was really niched. I was in that real estate market where the majority of my clients were really large brokerages that were paying the bills, and they started filing bankruptcy. And so I was one of the first people that they weren't paying. And, when you're small and you have an outstanding invoice of about $10,000, that's your complete monthly income. So when I had about 3 of those companies go under, my company also decided it was time to shut the doors. So that was a nice run. I recently wrote a blog post kind of about that, where it's only when you've gone through some type of failure, let's just call it a failure, because in entrepreneurship, right, you try to fail fast and not blow through your savings. But my goal in that time frame was really, I didn't want to work for corporate America. So did I succeed in that? Absolutely. I wanted to create an environment where I could be with my kids every day and have the flexibility to do that. Did that 3 years of entrepreneurship allow for that? Absolutely. Did I learn so much about running a small business with a brick and mortar, and that you're the one that has to show up to open and close and do everything? Yes. So, in a sense, it really was a success because I learned so much about entrepreneurship. I learned about myself. I learned about juggling so many different things, negotiating leases, negotiating equipment lease. I mean, just all the different aspects of that kind of a business I learned, and I've carried all of those skill sets forward and applied them in what I'm doing today. So the only failure would be financial, but in another sense, all of the skills I picked up would be considered a success.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that and being candid about the highs and lows. We hear about that a lot, and that is the life of an entrepreneur. There are lots of highs and lots of lows. So, and just learning to pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and keep moving is, as you said, so extremely important. Well, I want to make sure we have some time to really talk about the work you're doing now, Kathryn. So Whatever direction you want to take this, if you want to, talk more about, some of the tools you use, how you work, who you work with, I'll let you decide.
Sure, absolutely. So, along this journey I've had, one of the things that professionals, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an employee, whatever it is that you're doing, the establishing your own personal brand is so important, right? That's something that no one can take away from you. You can take it to a company, you can take it to your business, you can take it to speaking, whatever you want to do. And so I teach people how to establish their personal brand on social media. So that's really important for a platform like LinkedIn. If you want to be known as a speaker, let's say, and people are looking for you on LinkedIn, 62%, let's talk just for a moment about B2B buyers. 62% of B2B buyers look for you on social media before they make a decision to purchase. And one of those platforms would be LinkedIn. So when you show up on LinkedIn, you need to show up how your target market would like to see you.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the areas we work on. The other thing that that I've always been able to do is to find the right people, find the right target market, and a platform like LinkedIn allows you to do that, and it helps you get really clear on who it is that you're trying to sell to or who you want to interact with. Either, once again, if you're trying to find a job or as an entrepreneur, you're looking for your target market, you can connect with top target market decision makers through social media and LinkedIn especially. So that's another area that social selling in general focuses on. There's 4 buckets. The third bucket that I use LinkedIn for and social selling would be to engage with your prospects and engage with your target market. So what's better place to do that than a LinkedIn or a Facebook? So what is your target market talking about? Where are they hanging out? Are they in groups? Are they being promoted? Are they in the news? What areas are they researching? You can see all of that through a platform like LinkedIn. And it's really important when you're building trust with your target market to be able to engage with them on a platform, just one of the channels. You could be emailing them, you could be text messaging them, whatever you're doing. It's just another area where you can engage and build trust. And then the fourth bucket that I use with social selling is to actually build true relationships with people, because we need to remember, like LinkedIn, like Facebook, they're social media platforms, and you need to be social with people, and you need to build real authentic relationships with them. And so I teach people messaging strategies and really taking that relationship to a phone call. Why just text message them? Pick up the phone, talk to them, understand what it is they need, what's their ask, what's top of mind for them, and then trying to connect them with those areas that they need support. And then ultimately, if and when it's time, they're going to ask you what it is they can do to support you, and that's when you can start selling them or talking to them about what type of services you have that could be of benefit to them. So that's just the framework that I use when I work with people to teach them on social selling. We hit those 4 buckets, and we ultimately just nurture those relationships, which leads to increased leads, which leads to closing more business, which leads to increased revenue.
Love it. So I want to pause on something you said, and we've had this conversation as well in person. Going back to that nurture piece, because this is so important. And I know you see it, you've talked about it, I see it every day as well. People go about this all wrong. And I'm going to just focus really most of the attention here on LinkedIn specifically, because it is a social platform. It has gotten much more social in the last few years. I think, when we all started using LinkedIn, it was, you weren't going there daily to browse. Now they've gotten a lot better, about encouraging people to post articles and engage and interact with each other, which is great. But a lot of people don't get that and need your help, of course, in that, I'm sure you get the same. I probably get at least a dozen requests every single day from somebody who wants to quote unquote connect. And what seems to be accelerating on LinkedIn a bit is the minute I hit the accept button, if I choose to, and I don't accept everybody, I get a response. Thank you for connecting with me. I'd like to sell you something, basically. You know what I mean? That's very, or even when their initial outreach, you did a video on this of, your profile is very interesting. I think our connection, we have opportunities, right? And then they turn around and just try to sell to you, right? So just talk about what does nurture really mean? Like, give us maybe an example of somebody you've nurtured and how you've used LinkedIn to do that.
Yeah, so it depends on, what your goal is of the nurture campaign. Let's just say that we're just building relationships with people, right? We're building a relationship with someone that could potentially be a lead. You've identified them. So an example would be, first, you're going to reach out to connect with them. So you really do need to look through their LinkedIn profile and find out something unique from them, from the profile. So let's say, for example, a recent gentleman that I linked in with had a scholarship for a sport in college. So, that's a hard task. Not everybody can get a full ride scholarship to a university. So I reached out with, I'd like to learn more a little bit about your sport and about what you do. And so it turns out that this person had a scholarship in football, and now they also coach kids in sports, and they're doing videos for those sports. And, they're just really active in different areas. And that was a conversation starter, right? Something unique that they're passionate about that you can talk about. And then, then they want to talk about you. What are you doing? And then you get an opportunity to share what you're passionate about. I'm passionate about helping people with social selling. Oh, really? Tell me a little bit more about that. So it opens up the conversation. You're doing a two-way street of discovery. So that would just be an opener. A nurturing campaign that you would do with somebody you're already connected to is, you found out that person is interested in branding themselves. They're interested in connecting with other people that are writing articles. So when you see that come across your feed, you forward it to them either through a message, or you tag them in a LinkedIn post, because you want them to see that you really remember what it is that they're passionate about, what they're working on. And so you're engaging with them, you're helping them start conversations. Another person I've talked to wants to re-enter the workforce. I thought they were an entrepreneur. They've decided they want to pivot and go back into the workforce. Well, I'm connected with resume writers and career coaches. That's not my space. That's not something I can help with, but I can certainly vet the people in my network that are in that area, create a document and send it to them and say, here's the women or the men that I've spoken to that might be able to help you out. And then they're so grateful because you've helped them connect with what they need and where they're at in their area. So those are just examples about providing value and nurturing a relationship, so that you can actually build a relationship and they can remember that you helped them out at a certain time. And then in return, they'll either reciprocate or they won't, but still you gave value to the relationship.
That's so important.
So
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And you are very, very good at that. And I can't emphasize this enough, absolutely, of how important what you're talking about is, because what you're saying is give first, and maybe give more than once, maybe give several times, but be a resource. I always use the phrase lead, don't sell. Be a resource for somebody multiple times, help them find the connections that they need. And oftentimes they will remember that. Like you said, not everybody will reciprocate, but oftentimes you'll be memorable in that. And that's why LinkedIn in particular, I just think is so powerful, because even when you're not communicating directly to this individual, you're out there, right? I mean, you're sharing your thought leadership, you're sharing tips and tricks and things that, have helped you or your clients, best practices, all of that. And people they're watching, they're listening. And so that thought leadership is so, so important, and giving first within that. I really appreciate how much you do that.
Yeah, and it's just a core value I have to give to other people. And so it's really not about an ego, oh, I helped you, you should help me. It's really when you take the time to learn, listen, and understand where somebody's at on their own personal journey. And then if you can just recommend somebody to them, it's ultimately up to them to take advantage of that connection or that response, and you don't need to manage it. You just simply pass it off and you give. It's just taking like a offline networking skill and just bringing it into a social setting where you're doing the same thing. You could just do it at a larger scale because you're doing it sitting from your desk.
Fantastic. So you're primarily focused on the business to business space.
Yes.
If somebody's listening, they have a small team, they have a business, they're interested in this world of social selling and maybe getting their team engaged in social selling, how do you work? Basically, how could somebody engage you?
Absolutely. So I do LinkedIn profile optimization, where we can work one-on-one to just get their profile up to speed, primarily if they're a B2B entrepreneur. And then the second way is we can work one-on-one together, going through these 4 different buckets that we talked about. In approximately 8 weeks, we can establish a strategy for them about establishing their personal brand, finding the right people, engaging with their target market, and then building those relationships. That's another way we can work together. And then thirdly, I have a whole team that can do a done-for-you lead generation system where we establish your authority, and then you pass that over to my team, and we actually use your LinkedIn profile, and we generate leads for you. We generate connections, we generate leads, and we jam-pack your calendar with appointments with your target market. So those are the 3 different areas that you can work with me and with my team.
Fantastic. So what's on the horizon for the business, Kathryn? Where are you going with all of this great work?
Well, one of my goals has been to write and to actually publish a book. So I'm going to be working with a Hera Hub member that we have, Bethany Kelly, on writing my first book. And so that's something that I'm working on and that I'll be focused on in the first quarter. It's a personal goal. And then I'm going to be working with doing a course so that the information that I would deliver on a one-to-one actually can be automated and people can listen to it at their own speed, and it will be a price point that they can afford. So those are 2 of the goals that I have that I really identified when I was at this fabulous event called Flight Club. You might have heard of it.
Yes, our annual strategic planning. Yeah.
Yes. So those are some of the areas that I'm focusing my business on. And then, it's another big goal I have is to speak to every single person in my network, which could take years, but that's something that I'm doing as well. I'm just understanding what my network needs, where they're at, and how I can continue to build products to support them on their journey to success.
Love it. So let's make a bold proclamation here. When will this book be ready for us to buy, Kathryn?
Well, according to Bethany, if I stay on track, we could have it ready by February 1st.
Ooh, love it. All right.
Yes,
You
quick.
heard it here. February 1st. Book launch. We'll make the announcement. I love it.
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
And then she already has book 2 ready. She's like,
of
oh,
course.
then there's I'm like, oh goodness. Let's skip
Like, let's just get the first one out. I know.
Yes.
People ask me that all the time. I mean, I published my book now like 3.5 years ago, and they're like, when are you going to write your second book? I'm like, I think I'm good. I'm like, I got it. It's out. I'm good.
Well, and you have yours out on audio now, right?
Yes, finally. Good Lord, that took me forever. I don't know why I dragged my feet on that so much. I guess I was looking for the right resource to do the audio, something that was convenient and not too expensive, frankly. And I actually used is not the best word. I engaged the son of one of our members up in Carlsbad, a young man named Carter, who his father, our member's husband, has a audio recording business, and Carter is getting into this world of audiobooks. He did a phenomenal job. He came to Hera Hub. We did it all there. Super convenient. So can't recommend him enough. It was a great experience. And gosh darn it, I'm done. So that's what matters.
So everybody download it, right?
Yes, so. There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for the plug. Well, Kathryn, if our listeners want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. It's easy to find my website, which is kathrynevans.net. And my phone number is placed on every page on the website, and they can email me at kathrynevans.net. Super simple, Kathryn.
Brilliant. And find you on LinkedIn, of course, and connect with you there.
That goes without saying. Absolutely. Sorry about that. And my LinkedIn profile is Kathryn Evans Nunez, which is a whole nother story for a whole nother podcast.
Yes, exactly.
We'll just stick with those 3 names right now.
Perfect. So. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Kathryn.
No problem. I appreciate it, Felina, and good luck to you, and good luck to all the listeners out there. I hope that we provided some valuable tips today that can help you with your social selling strategy.
I'm sure we did.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.